At the top of PMQs today, Speaker Lindsay Hoyle made a little statement where he reminded MPs that they are not allowed to call each other liars.
I wish to make a statement about the House practices regarding accusing members of lying or deliberately misleading the House.
Now, that is an arcane rule which, although it still exists, has caused quite a lot of anger among MPs and among the public of late, and not unreasonably so.
It's not my fault if the Prime Minister can't be trusted to tell the truth.
Under the power given to me by Standing Order number 43, I order the honourable member to withdraw immediately from the House.
Because, let's face it, we have a Prime Minister who, shall we say, has a casual relationship with the truth. But this has all come to the fore in recent days because Boris Johnson made a claim about Keir Starmer during his time as Director of Public Prosecutions, that he spent more time prosecuting journalists than he did prosecuting Jimmy Savile.
This leader of the opposition, a former Director of Public Prosecutions, Mr. Speaker, so he spent most of his time prosecuting journalists and failing to prosecute Jimmy Savile, as far as I can make out, Mr. Speaker.
This was immediately found to be untrue. It's a rumour that was spread by online conspiracy theorists. Keir Starmer was not involved in the decision to prosecute or not Jimmy Savile. But Boris Johnson is sticking to his guns. He said he stuck to the claim today, refused to apologise and refused to retract it.
Theirs is the party of Winston Churchill. Our parties stood together as we defeated fascism in Europe. Now their leader stands in the House of Commons parroting the conspiracy theories of violent fascists to try and score cheap political points.
Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, on his first point, I don't want to make heavy weather of this, but I am informed that in 2013, the Right Honourable Gentleman apologised and took full responsibility for what had happened on his watch.
So, why does Boris Johnson keep doing this? Why does he keep saying things that he knows will be immediately found to be untrue and then refuse to retract them when he is found out? So, to answer the first part of that question, you have to journey back to the 2016 Brexit referendum, I'm afraid, and to that infamous claim that was plastered on the side of a bus that we send £350 million a week to the EU. Now, that figure, time has told, is, if not entirely untrue, it's wildly misleading. And the Vote Leave campaign knew this. Senior members of the campaign have since admitted as much. They did the maths, they found a range of figures, picked the biggest one and ran with it. And Dominic Cummings has since said it was designed to, quote, drive the Remain campaign and the people running it crazy. One of his Vote Leave colleagues, Paul Stevenson, more recently said, quote, all they did was create arguments about how much money we were sending. The Vote Leave campaign didn't care if they were being proved wrong. All they cared about was that people were arguing about the amount of money we were sending to the EU instead of arguing about the things the In campaign wanted to talk about. So do I think bringing up false claims about Keir Starmer and Jimmy Savile is a planned out, high-level strategy on the part of Number 10? Almost certainly not. Boris Johnson has, over several decades, learned that he can get away with saying things that aren't entirely true, and blasting him towards his opponents can be of great benefit to him. But he just does it as a matter of course now. It's just part of his, what Dominic Raab described as the cut and thrust of his style of political debate. He admitted as much in a 2006 interview where he said he deliberately made, quote, so many gaffes, no one knows what to concentrate on. What the Vote Leave campaign did in the referendum was to take his ability to say things like this and get away with it and weaponise it into a full-on strategy. So how does he get away with it? Boris Johnson knows two things. Boris Johnson knows, first of all, that all MPs enjoy what's called parliamentary privilege. That means they can't be prosecuted or taken to court for things they say in the House of Commons. He also knows he's got the protection of the aforementioned arcane rules of the House of Commons. The conventions of the House, bless, assume MPs are people of honour and good character, and that anything they say in the chamber is said in good faith, and that any mistakes they made are inadvertent. And that's why the Speaker doesn't intervene when MPs or ministers say things that aren't true in the chamber. There is, however, a rule against MPs accusing each other of lying to maintain some kind of orderly conduct. You should. The rules say you should never accuse your opponent of not telling the truth deliberately. There is a process for holding MPs in contempt of Parliament for intentionally misleading the House, but the process involves a motion being tabled and voted through by a majority of MPs, which is obviously unlikely to happen if your Prime Minister has a large majority, as Boris Johnson does. There's also a rule against misleading the House in the Ministerial Code if you're a Minister of the Crown, but guess who's ultimately responsible for deciding whether someone has broken the Ministerial Code? That's right, Boris Johnson. So will he get away with it this time? That's a great question, which sadly I do not have a good answer to. The Jimmy Savile claim has certainly caused a lot more upset than a lot of his untrue claims. It is, after all, an attempt to invoke a serial paedophile and rapist in order to gain political advantage. But all of that being said, Boris Johnson has done some pretty distasteful things and made pretty distasteful comments in his time. The two that spring to mind are, firstly, when he at an event said that Libya would be a great country once they've cleared all the dead bodies away. Another time he said on a radio programme, he complained that money spent on prosecuting historic allegations of child abuse was, quote, spaffed up a wall. It's also the case that Boris Johnson's stock is the lowest it's been in quite a long time. His personal approval rating, the Tory party's polls have been plummeting since Partygate started to emerge. Boris Johnson's always been considered a bit of a Teflon politician. And the longer his stock plummets, the longer more allegations come out, the more that Teflon scrapes off, and the more Tory backbenchers might start thinking it's time to invest in a new pan.